Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this Tuesday afternoon here in Southern California. We are at 2 p.m. And if you're joining us live, I thank you so much for doing that. If you're in Hawaii, where my guest is from, it's 11 a.m. So good mid-morning, late morning to you. And thank you for joining us. So I have a great health and wellness conversation for you today. I am Balanced Life, conversations that connect to a healthier you. And again, I thank you for being here today. I want to tell you a little bit about what I do. I'm a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and a health and nutrition coach. And I help people find balance with everything in life that's connected that we need to live a life of joy and wellness. And I help people, I guide them, I encourage them, I cheer them on, and I lead them with tools that are sustainable for a lifetime of joy and happiness. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can do that by going to my website, which is balancedlifebydebbie.com. And there you'll see all the services I provide and the way you can get in touch with me. I also encourage you to reach out because I do a 1-hour free introductory session. So if you like that, come join me for that as well. Also, if you're not listening live, I want to thank you for joining us as well. You can get in touch with us and become part of this conversation even after the fact by going to my Facebook page, Balanced Life by Debbie, and asking a question or making a comment, or my YouTube channel once the show is up on YouTube, Balanced Life by Debbie, and make a comment, ask a question, and we will respond, my guest and I, after the fact. But if you're watching the show live anywhere in the world right now and you have a comment or a question, or you have a story, something that's worked for you within the subject, then give us a call. And the number here is 323-524-2599. That's 323-524-2599. I love when we're interactive and we can help and someone who comes in and asks a question is usually helping a lot more people besides just the group that's in the conversation. So don't hesitate to do that. All right, we're going to get on with the show. Again, thank you for joining us because I often talk about and highlight on my show individually all the key ingredients to living a balanced life. Financial freedom is one of those major ingredients. Without it, it becomes very difficult to reach all of your life wellness goals. My guest today, Jenn Trinidad, is the founder of Budget Divas, a website that's dedicated to helping women get out of debt so they can use their money towards the things that matter to them the most. Jenn and her husband, Alden, paid off $41,000 in debt in 1 year and a total of $90,000 over 4 years. They credit their success to living on a sustainable and flexible budget, increasing their income, changing their paradigms about money and budgeting. So today we're going to talk about the 3 pillars of financial freedom and how you too can gain confidence with a budgeting plan that could undoubtedly help you reach your financial goals. So will you please welcome my guest, Jenn Trinidad, to the show. And there you are. Hi, Jenn.
Hi.
How are you? Nice
I'm
to
great.
see you. Thank you for joining us in your earlier hours there in Hawaii. I'm jealous you're in Hawaii. That's so exciting.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm a real advocate for what you're doing in terms of longevity and health and wellness. And I'm really, I think I've done 2 or 3 shows now on financial health if you will, because I think being financially sound has a lot to do. Health and financial freedom and healthy freedom sort of go hand in hand. You can't really have one without the other. And I know we're going to get into that a little bit today. But before we do, I want to hear about you and your background, when all this journey and helping others after you what led you to realize what you had to do to give yourself financial freedom, how you did it, what that road was, and now how you're helping other people. So tell us, if you will, a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from, and what was your younger years like?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Jenn Trinidad. I have a website called budgetdivas.com. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii, with my husband Alden and my son Brandon, who currently we just dropped him off to University of Washington last week.
Congrats.
So
It's a big step, I know.
yeah, so my journey kind of starts when my son was in middle school, and we were just living the normal 9 to 5 job life, and we're comfortable with where we were. But as my son was getting older, I really wanted more time to spend with him and less time being at work. I was in a comfortable job that I had left to take another job that was very sales heavy.
Can I ask
So
what
that
you did?
required
What did you do? What was your job?
my the second job that I took was as a sales business development manager for a staffing company. And that was a great company to work for. It was just a lot of hours that was dedicated to recruiting and client interaction, and just the time that it took away from my family was just a really big burden to me. And I thought, this is the only way that I'm going to get ahead, because it was so sales heavy with incentives, that was the only way that we could survive. Hawaii is a very, very expensive state to live in. And I had a lot of debt coming into our marriage. I was the one who had all of the debt, the credit cards, the back taxes, and student loan, for a total of $90,000. And so I had heard of this guy named Dave Ramsey in 2012 and didn't really think anything of it, would listen to him here and there. But I like to say that I have shiny object syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
which is very real, because I am the spender in our family. My husband is totally content with what he has, but I'm the one who likes to spend. So in 2016, when I got a call from my son's school saying, you need to take him to the emergency room immediately because something has happened to him. And I just felt like I need to change.
Mm.
The reason why he had to go to the emergency room is because the days leading up to being sick, I didn't see the signs. I was so busy with working in the early mornings to late at night. And then when I would come home, I would work some more, that I didn't realize that he needed my attention. And that was really the breaking point for me, where I was like, I need to find a job that is going to be able to take care of my family, but also I'm going to be able to support myself. And so I did eventually leave that position for a position that allowed me to work from home. But it was really at that point that it was like Dave Ramsey says, I've had enough and I'm not going back. This is my moment where I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and something needs to change. So over the course of the next 4 years, from 2016 to 2020, my husband and I had decided that we were going to get out of debt no matter what. The first 3 years was really hard
I'm
because,
sure.
like I said, I am the spender.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to find a way where I didn't have to live on beans and rice
Yeah.
and rice and
I was
beans.
just going to say that that's Dave Ramsey's mantra. All right, you have to, you touched on something that's so true for a lot of people I see it in the health and wellness area with diet and exercise. When something happens, when you sort of reach rock bottom, you say, I'm sick and tired, I have to make a change. And change is very hard, as we know, for everybody in every area of life. But these are big ticket items that we're talking about. Finances and your health are two huge big ticket items. And I know that Dave Ramsey has this mantra of, you've got to be willing to make certain changes. And one of them is beans and rice and beans, until you get debt free. And then you can start building again. And that's very difficult for people to grasp, I think, because that's a huge change. You're not going to go out and spend money anymore on food. And so, you've created a way, and Dave has programs too, I've actually been in them, to create simple, actionable steps, one step, one day, one process at a time, which is really important. But you left off on the first 3 years were hard. I'm curious, what was hard about them?
The hardest part was, yes, even though Dave Ramsey made a huge impact into our family's journey and giving those baby steps into what to do next, for the first 3 years, I felt like I was living under a rock. Like when my friends and family would call, I would say, I'm sorry, I can't go out. And I wouldn't tell them the reason why, because I was so embarrassed about our financial situation. So I would make excuses and say, well, we're busy, or, we already have plans. And so those first 3 years, we tried everything that we could. We tried to increase our income, we decreased our expenses, and we lived on a budget. But the hardest part was that we weren't actually living on a budget. And when I say we, I mean me, because I'm the spender. And so retail therapy would come in every time I would feel bad about not spending money. So in the end of, I want to say it was about the end of 2018, almost 3 years in, that I found something called being a secret shopper. And it's basically a mystery shopper. And that really helped to escalate our debt. And it helped to, really push us past what we needed to do. And so from 2018 of October to December of 2019, we were able to pay off $41,000 worth of debt. And the best part of this was we were able to have our date nights again, because being a secret shopper, you're able to go to restaurants, you're able to shop at grocery stores, shop at retail stores, travel, even go to hotels and stay at hotels for free. Well, not for free, but you're doing a service to this company and evaluating their customer service, and in return they're paying you plus full reimbursement of using the facilities. So I think at that point was when I started to get really serious of knowing that this is possible. You mentioned being on a diet earlier, and I am one that I'm still having a hard time giving up sugar because I love sugar.
Change is hard. Change is very difficult. Hard. Yeah.
But I found that if I just took the next step every single time, even if it was just a tiny baby step, I would get into the right direction that I needed to go. And even if I took 20 steps back, if I kept taking the next step forward, I would eventually get to my goal.
So true. And, what you guys, it's pretty commendable what you and your husband were able to do with your debt and get that down and become debt free, and then start creating a savings and being able, I know you had a goal of trying, not to be in debt when your son went away to college. And, those are little goals and the same thing with diet, it's the goal of weight loss. It's the goal of, the health journey. It's the goal of staying illness free. And so you have to have your why, your sort of end game there too, in order for something to start happening with those baby steps and make them worth it and make it pliable, because nothing happens overnight. And your finances, obviously, you just took you 4 years, are not going to change overnight. But there's no way they're going to change at all if your habits don't change, just like your weight isn't going to change, or the feeling good isn't going to change if you don't implement the lifestyle that's going to create the change. And the lifestyle comes over small, actionable steps over a period of time. So once your income changed, you decided you could help other people with the knowledge that you gained in how to becoming debt-free without feeling, you sort of can help people where they can still work down debt and still not overspend and be on a budget and still be able to go out and socialize, right? You've created some, we should really start from the beginning of this and how do you start budgeting? What do you do to help people?
Sure. So in the Budget Divas membership, which I call it a Budget Divas community, and I call not as clients, but they're members of the community, we focus on 3 pillars. And the first pillar is creating a budget, and not just creating a budget, but also living on a sustainable budget. The second is to decrease your expenses. And then the third one is to increase your income. So the reason why I only focus on those 3 is that you can get into shiny objects where you want to start investing or buying a house or saving for retirement or going into Bitcoin or whatever it is. But if you just focus on the 3 things first, your brain kind of just goes, okay, I can handle this. I can handle one thing at a time. So the first step is really just to create your budget. And I gave this example to another member in my community, and she liked it because I said, it's like that junk drawer that you have at home that you just stuff everything in and then you forget about it. But once you empty that junk drawer and you sort out everything, you throw things away, you put it in places where it needs to be, you have a clean drawer and you know what to do next. So the same thing is like your budget. It's going to be hard at first to get all of your income statements and your expenses and put everything together on a piece of paper to see what that playing field looks like. But once you know what your budget looks like, then you can start making adjustments. You can see if you're spending too much on groceries and need to decrease it. You can see if you're in the negative and you need to increase your income so you can keep your head above water. And then you can do steps 2 and steps 3, which is really trying to decrease your expenses into something that's manageable and then increasing your income.
With And that's, it's like anything else. If you put it in writing and you look at it, like with clients, I'll have them do a food diary and like an exercise log, a food log, exercise log, just for maybe 24 hours. But it gives me a snip into the lifestyle of what they're doing, what they're eating, how much, what they're putting in their bodies. And then we can make adjustments, one small successful change at a time, based on finding substitutions that still satiate them and make them feel good. With money, I feel like it's the same thing. You need to get it down on paper. And I know you divide it like you do your hard costs first, the things that aren't going to change, right? Like things like mortgage and rent and electric, which, kind of flows, and some of our utilities change. But for the most part, those are the hard things that have to get paid to keep the roof over your head and to keep you basically living. And then things that fluctuate, like food and gas and any kind of clothing or necessary things for kitchen utensils, whatever it might be, those things are not hard costs. Is that correct? So you kind of start from the top and then you kind of fill in as you go so you can see exactly what you're spending, let's say in a day, a week, a month. Correct?
Yes, exactly. So the first, I have a spreadsheet, which it's a editable spreadsheet that you can make changes as you go, and you can see your different trends on how your spending and your income is going. But the first document that I start with, that I give as a freebie, is a PDF template. And within that PDF template is, you first put your income, and then you put your fixed expenses, and then all your flexible extra expenses, and then your debt. And the reason why I put it that way is because you really want to take care of what Dave Ramsey calls your four walls. One of the four walls is food, but I put that in the extra expenses because that can fluctuate from month to month. But you really need, and we really don't have any control over how much gas costs. If you need to put gas in your car, you need to put gas in your car. If you need to pay your mortgage, you need to pay your mortgage. And so those are all the things that are fixed expenses. And then you can make adjustments and see how much you have left over from that into the extra expenses.
So, and that's a really smart way to go. Now, I find, you know what, we're going to take a quick break because I want to come back and get into this discussion about, you know, if you don't have a steady paycheck and you don't know what your income is every month, if you're entrepreneurs like you and I are, or if you, you know, you're not getting taxes taken out, how do we keep track? Where do we put away for paying our taxes at the end of the year, that kind of thing. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after one of my sponsors checks in with us and get right into that. So we'll be right back. I have been a wine enthusiast for many decades, but for a while I had to stop drinking wine because of the sleepless nights and the headaches that I would have in the morning, even after only one glass. Does this sound familiar? So for the past 5 years, and since the start of my show, I've been looking for a healthy wine, and finally I found the answer I've been looking for: Dry Farm wines. Dry Farm wines are lab tested for purity, just 12.5% alcohol or less, 0.15 grams of sugar or less per glass, very low sulfites, and free of toxic additives. Dry Farm wines are dry farmed with healthy, biodiverse soil, and the taste, bright and vibrant due to no manipulation. I can't say enough about the amazing wines that I've tried. And now you too can drink wine and not worry about how it is negatively affecting your health. Just go to dryfarmwines.com/balanced life by Debbie so you too can taste the love put into every bottle. All right, we're back with my guest, Jenn Trinidad, and we're talking about Budget Divas and how Jenn helps her members, clients, create a lifestyle of financial freedom, which is huge in the overall health goal. And we were talking about before the break, basically creating a budget, getting down those hard costs, then getting down sort of the soft costs underneath so you can see where your money's going. Now, I know you have a term. It's like a budget or a money GPS. Like when you think about how, you know, GPS gets us to where we want to go, well, when you have a budget, that's how you can see where you want to go with your finances, right? It's takes you from A to B to C kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. A budget just tells you where you're at and where you're going to go. And it tells you if you need to make a U-turn or you need to go in another direction. It'll keep saying reroute. So it's the same thing with their budget. And so the Excel spreadsheet that I have that's very, you know, editable and interactive, you can actually see, and this is what I teach in my membership, of what if I was just to cut $100 from here and $100 from here? Then what would my total look like? And so you can kind of see the trends of where you're going and how fast you can get out of debt or increase those savings with just increasing your expenses or decreasing your expenses or increasing your income.
Yeah, it makes sense. I would say that again, this is a roadmap, if you will, to financial health. And I would say the first step, the very first step is your intention. Like, do you have to hit rock bottom in order to get there? In order to say it's time. I got to get out of debt. I can't stand this feeling anymore. Feeling deprived because you can't do the things or go to the places that you want to go or buy the things that some of your friends are enjoying that you're not able to enjoy as well because you can't, or not getting invited to things because your friends know you can't afford it, and really there's an end to the madness, but you have to make the actual decision that I'm going to do it. I'm going to put the steps forward. So we know how to get started. We know you have a template to help people. You have membership that keeps people on track. But what do we do to, like you alluded and talked about, you had a side hustle. You had a job that you worked from home, but it wasn't getting you to where you want to be. So once you saw the numbers that, or anyone for that matter, sees what's not working, you realize you either have to cut back on other things or you have to add to your income. So you had this side hustle that changed everything for you. It's not a one size fits all kind of thing. So everybody's coming from a different place and different habits, should we say, like you like your shiny objects. That's a shopping thing. I'm glad that you were able to turn that into income. How do people, once they realize, okay, this isn't working, what's the next step? What should they do after they've got their numbers down and they can see where they're at?
After they've got their numbers down, the reason why I say decreasing your expenses is next versus increasing your income is anybody can increase their income. Even during the pandemic, there were people who were doing DoorDash and Instacart and Uber and everything that they could think of. But if you don't decrease your expenses, you're going to be in the same boat. You're just going to be spending whatever income comes in, and then nothing is going to change. So it's definitely a habit that you have to change. My friends would always tell me, you're so good with money, you're able to save and do this and that, and that's not the fact at all. I am not good with money. Naturally, I have to be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how you said it's with intention because in my space, people always talk about frugal living, and that may resonate with people. It doesn't resonate with me, the word frugal. I like to say I'm intentional with my spending, and all of my dollars are going to exactly what I need it to go to. So when we were getting out of debt, there were some things that we had to give up to decrease our expenses. We gave up cable. I gave up some of my subscriptions. My husband gave up his gym membership. My son gave up his piano lessons. And so we knew that it was only going to be for a short period of time. After we had decreased that, we actually found that we didn't really need it. We just adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
We watched Netflix, which wasn't very expensive, instead of watching cable. My son joined the band at school that was free versus the $150 a month piano lessons that we were paying every month. My husband exercised outside instead of going to the gym. So it is all about intention, and it is about taking advantage of what things are offered to you and what's available to you. And then once you decrease that and you get to a point where you can't decrease any more of your expenses, that's when you need to decide when you're going to or how you're going to increase your income. I didn't want to get another job because I wanted to spend time with my family. So I had to find a way that I could also work from home for a side hustle that would allow my family and I to spend time together while increasing our income so that we could pay down our debt.
So smart. And again, it comes down to being able to accept change and realize it's not going to be, some things feel like they're abrupt and you just can't live without, but we actually can. And, it's once you try it, if it doesn't work, then maybe you can adjust it. But just as we've seen, like you were alluding to in this pandemic, we've all had to pivot in some way, shape, or form. I'm a personal trainer. I work in gyms. I teach classes with large groups of people in big gyms and private clubs. So that ended. And I still had to have an income. I had to figure it out for me so I could help my clients figure it out for them and still keep things moving. And I think we've all got that story during this 2020 through, the last 18 months of how we had to pivot. Well, I feel like with a budget, creating a budget and then cutting back is the same kind of thing. We were forced to do something we had no choice about. We feel like with money, quick story, but it ended our finances, lack of budget. I say, when people say, what happened in your marriage? And I say, no budget. Simple 2 words, no budget. We were married for a very long time. We had 2 grown kids out of college. The way we were both freelancers in the film business. So when we had money, we spent it. And when we didn't, we worried about it. And that's because we spent it when we had it and we didn't budget it. And my life would be very different right now, or going into my divorce, had we been on a budget and had I consciously made the effort to say, all right, let's average out a year and let's figure this out one line item at a time. It'd be completely different. And I feel like that's true with the way we spend. Is if we do, or it's true for anything in life. If we do it mindlessly, we're going to go down fast and we're going to hit rock bottom. And I feel like, with what I do with people with diet and exercise, if they mindlessly aren't willing to make some change because it's not familiar, it doesn't feel good, change doesn't, work well for them, they're going to hit rock bottom eventually. And it's that mindset of what we've been talking about all along, of willing to make the change for the better and knowing the outcome is somewhere out here, but doing those actionable steps one at a time will actually make a difference. So now as a single person, I've made those changes. But it took my marriage falling apart because we had no budget. And I also find with money, and this was another question I was going to ask you, people, it's like a taboo subject. People don't want to talk about money. And in my marriage, when I would say, let's sit down and budget this month, that my ex would get so mad at me, he'd take all the bills and just throw them down on a table and go, here, you figure it out. And that really doesn't work, does it? It causes, so to avoid argument, we just didn't have a budget, which ended us down hitting rock bottom. How do you suggest people have a better relationship with finances, money, budgeting? Getting to that point. Sorry.
I love that you brought that up because my husband is the same way. If I was to say, okay, today we're going to sit down and we're going to have our budget meeting, he will make every excuse in the world not to sit down with me and do a budget. So what we call it is we call it our money strategy meeting. And so that kind of helps our brain to say, oh, we have money that we can spend, and we're going to spend it the way we want to, versus people think a budget is, it's kind of like when you're a kid and you ask your parents, can I have that toy in the store? And they say it's not in the budget. Can I go out to eat? It's not in the budget. Can we go on vacation? It's not in the budget. Budget becomes a very negative word.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say money strategy meeting, that kind of gives my brain the power to say, what do I want to do with my money this month that is not only going to make me happy, but, truthfully, is also going to make me money in my business. So with those meetings, my husband and I, we help each other. He has his own business as well. And so once it's set and we have it before the month begins, that's it. We're going to make sure that we're intentional with our finances. We're going to stick to it. We may have to make adjustments along the way just in case mishaps come up. But for the most part, we stick to what we say we're going to do.
And do you find, because Budget Divas is your company name, did you decide that it was women that were mostly either doing the budget in the family, or women that were single that needed to get on the right track? Why is it that you made the decision that women were the ones that kind of needed the reset, if you will, with their finances?
So this is gonna sound. So I'm a control freak. I'm not afraid to admit that. And so I felt like other women were out there like me when I would have these conversations with them, that they really wanted to get control over their finances as well. And the men in their lives were just like, honey, you can take care of the finances. Whatever you want will go. But when you leave it up to one person to make all of those decisions, you're not really in a partnership. It's kind of like a parent versus child relationship. So I wanted to target women to show that even though you may be that, what Dave Ramsey calls, that nerd and that free spirit, even though you may be the nerd in the relationship, there is some power that you can have to get control over the finances. And then you can introduce this to your spouse, and your spouse will be on board once they see you taking action and involve them in the process. So that's really why I wanted to target women, is because, for me, I'm a very type A. I like to know exactly what I'm doing from beginning to end. My husband is the total opposite, but when he saw that I was being more lenient with our budget and actually giving him some say into what goes into the budget and what should not be in the budget, that gave us the freedom to make choices together.
So, so for me, being single, I can do this on my own. I don't have to, consult with somebody. But so whoever sort of takes the helm, but even though you're working together, does he, everything that he spends, you see? And that way, or do you, let's talk about that, how to maybe get an app or some kind of plan where everything, you can see where your money's going, so you both don't have to, like, he doesn't have to turn in receipts to you and you do the books. It doesn't work like that, does it?
Great question. I have what I call in my budget is a budget line of Jen's fun money and Alden's fun money. At the beginning of the month, I give my husband his fun money in cash. He can do whatever he wants with it. He can put it into, we're both on each other's bank accounts, but we each have our own spending account. So he can either deposit it into his spending account and use his debit card to pay for whatever he needs, or take that cash and use it during that month. And so I don't have to track that, because at the beginning of the month, we already decided I'm going to get this much money from my fund money. He's going to get that much money for his fun money, and then that stops all of the fights. He can do whatever he wants with his money for that month.
That's great because, and though I said this at end of my marriage, there are two big reasons why marriages end. One is infidelity, and the other is finances. And finances they're equal. There's no one is higher than the other. So it's a huge region, and divorce is 50% here in this country. So that's so important that you're on the same page and that you be able to work this out, and that you've created programs to help people live harmoniously while they're still budgeting. And I don't think it matters how much money you have. It still matters that you buy. I have friends that are very wealthy that sometimes lose track of, all of a sudden they like, how did I get here? Wait, what just happened? And before you know it, they're selling one of their properties or a car. But if they kept track or had a better grip on it, I think they would know that they could have kept that property or that car because they were paying attention. So it really just comes down to paying attention in a healthy way and doing it together. I know you have this... you talk about automation and how it gives you freedom. What is that, and how does that work in terms of being able, once you start having money? I mean, one of the most important things you say is to have an emergency fund, and I know this is a Dave Ramsey thing too. The very first thing you need to do is, I think he says, put away 6 months worth of expenses as soon as you can. Not everybody can do that right away, but as soon as you can, because like you said, with your son or whatever happens, you need to have that emergency fund. Otherwise, you're going to go into debt some way, somehow, using a credit card, borrowing money, whatever it is, right?
Yes. So an emergency fund is the most important thing that you need to start off with, even before you start tackling your debt. So, if you're familiar with Dave's Ramsey's baby steps, he says the baby step 1 is your emergency fund. And at first, this kind of seemed opposite to me because I wanted to pay off that debt as fast as I could. But when I actually had an emergency fund, it stopped the money fights. If we had a flat tire, it was an inconvenience, but we'll just pay for the flat tire, move on. If, my child needed something for school and we didn't have the money in our regular accounts, we would have to dip into the emergency savings, but at least we weren't putting it on a credit card. And so that is the first step, to have an emergency fund that works for you. We had more than $1,000 in our emergency fund when we first started, just because $1,000, if we were in a very big situation that we had to fix, with the car, it wasn't going to be enough. So we did bump it up by a little bit more. The second thing that you talked about is automation.
Mm-hmm.
Our brains are so filled with so many things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. And automation just takes the stress out of everything. So even if you're in debt and you're living paycheck to paycheck, I would say automate things as much as possible. If you have a credit card bill of $1,000, at least make the minimum payment. If the minimum payment is $25, at least have that automated every single month so that you're not getting hit with a late charge should you forget that. You can always add more money to that by going online and paying extra, but at least you know that that is taken care of and you're not going to get hit with a late charge. The same goes for your savings. One of the things that I love is automated my savings, because if I had to manually put money into my savings every single month, I can tell you for sure it's not going to happen, because if I have that money in my account, I'm going to want to spend it.
Yeah, anybody would. It's so natural when you see the money. It's like, ooh, I can go away for the weekend. Oh, let's go buy this couch or whatever, And I love the fact it's a savings, right? So it goes in automatically, and you can earmark it too where you'd want to save for it, can't you, in some of these accounts? There's two. The Capital One is one of them. What is the other one? America something that you can do online?
Yeah, so there's a Capital One 360, but the most recent one that I've been using over the past year is Ally Bank, and they've been around for a long time. I just haven't used that until recently. But what I love about Ally Bank is you transfer money from your regular main account into this online savings account that's free and interest bearing. And from there, you can divide it into buckets. So kind of think of it as like jars where you would have a jar with a post-it that has vacation money or fun money or Christmas fund. For example, if you start with $100 a month, from that $100, once it goes into your Ally Bank account, you can divide it. So you could say, I want $25 to go into my Christmas account. I want $50 to go into my vacation account, and I want the other $25 to go into my car account. And so this really helps to reach your savings goals. And there's also a way where you can set a goal, and it'll tell you the percentage of the way of how much you are towards that goal.
I love that.
It's automated, and when you need the money, you can easily just transfer it back to your main checking account for free.
I love that. I think it's a great way to save. I think we should take advantage of the technology and what we can do these days and really work it. We can do that with budget. You can earmark how your budget goes, and you can see where you're spending, and then you can do that with savings. I love that you can do that. And
yes, it's amazing.
It is. The opportunities that we are bypassing because it's either too much effort or we feel like we're being deprived. Again, the equating diet and exercise, you feel like when you, like you said, you like sugar, if we feel like we're depriving ourselves from anything, we're going to go the other way. We're just going to rebel against it, and we're going to eat too much, too many bad things for us. But if we feel like we're giving ourselves, a good outcome in the long run, and take these little steps towards, in your case, getting rid of the sugar cravings with food that's satiating, that you can substitute other things for it. The same thing with your finances, that feeling, that euphoric feeling, your endorphins kick in when you realize that you don't have any of these money or financial pressures because you've taken control step by step by step, one baby step at a time, to really delineate and see where everything's going and how to cut back. And you've created programs for this. We have just a few minutes left, believe it or not. Oh, I have to take one more break. Let me take my last break really quick, and we're going to come back on how people can reach you and join your membership. Okay, we'll be right back after this last message. Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. Do you feel like you are stuck in a dinner rut? With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients with mouth-watering seasonal deliveries right to your door. Just skip all those trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and, keyword here, affordable. You can now enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less. With over 25 recipes to choose from each week, there's something for everyone to enjoy. All recipes are designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. I've always told my clients when it comes to diet, it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. That's why I always recommend HelloFresh. It's a great way to home cook, have meals with healthy ingredients that you love, and it's well researched that cooking at home saves money and saves you from gaining any of that unwanted weight. So go to the link in our show notes to get $80 off including free shipping on HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit. All right, we're back for our last minute and a half or so. So, today we've been talking about budget and how important it is for us to be able to be on one for our financial health and wellness. And it's part of overall wellness. I always talk about all the things that have to connect to have a healthy life. And if you're stressed about finances, there's no way you're going to get there. So this is one of the ways that you've created this program. Tell us about your membership, and is it for women only, or can men join too? How does it work?
Anyone can join the membership. It's definitely open to all ages, not just like a specific gendered or age, but I do target, women. If you would like to join my membership, you can go to budgetdivas.com/join. If you're curious and not yet ready to join, but would like to know about my resources, I do have a free training that you can get if you go to budgetdivas.com/budget masterclass, or just log on to the homepage and click on free training. You'll get a copy of this free masterclass, why your budget is not working and what to do about it. Everything that we talked about today, I give you specific examples on how you can get your budget back on track.
It's wonderful. I love that. And I love what you're doing because, again, you're helping people with overall health, and you're helping marriages stay together because you have this whole protocol about how to get your spouse on board and, what we talked about and how you can help people individually with that, I think is, brilliant. I think it's so masterful. I want to thank you for your time today, Jen, because your expertise is well needed. I think all of us at some place find ourselves tempted to not think about money and just spend it. And so this is a way for us to be accountable, and accountability is really part of our wellness journey as well. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank you, my audience, for being here with us today. I'd love to hear from you. Jen would love to hear from you. So go to my Facebook page, and the show is repeating and streaming live on there, Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI, and leave a comment, ask a question, let us know what you thought works for you. If you don't think it's going to work and why, let us get a conversation going back and forth, because that's what I'm all about. And I want to thank you again for joining me, Jen, and thank you, my audience, and keep going out and having conversations that connect to a healthier you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.